Welcome to the edgescan vulnerability screen. The vulnerability screen shows you all the discovered vulnerabilities associated with your assets managed by edgescan. We can see a vulnerability list. The list has 7 columns. The type column tells us what the vulnerability type is. The location column tells us the location of the discovered vulnerability. The date open column shows when the vulnerability was discovered, validated, and pushed to edgescan. The date close column tells us when the vulnerability was closed. If edgescan discovers a vulnerability has been fixed, this column will be updated with the appropriate date. The score is the vulnerability score. The score takes into account the threat and severity of the discovered vulnerability and the priority of the asset where the vulnerability was found. This approach helps ensure that vulnerabilities discovered on high-priority assets are assigned a higher score. This is done as vulnerabilities on high-priority assets pose a bigger risk to your business. The status column can be either open or closed to reflect if the vulnerability is still present on the asset or if it's closed. The layer column tells us if the vulnerability is on the network or server layer or if the vulnerability is related to a web application issue. On the left side of the vulnerability screen, we have a wide variety of filtering and grouping options. The Group By option can set how many issues are displayed per screen. It can also group vulnerabilities by location or type. Group By Location lets us group all discovered issues by IP, page, or directory depending if the asset is a web application or server. This can assist with identifying all issues associated with a critical area in your application, such as a web page or function call. Group By Type groups all vulnerability of a similar type. Grouping by location and type can be used across more than one asset. This means you can easily see all similar vulnerabilities across all assets if you wish. The Sort By option gives you the ability to sort by risk score. The Filter option gives you the options to filter by asset, severity, threat, layer, application or network, and status, open or closed. Also, date ranges can be specified. Each vulnerability displayed can be examined in more detail by clicking the desired row in the list. You can drill down into the vulnerability technical detail. The View Vulnerability Definition option gives you more detail on the discovered issue and suggestions for remediation. The Attack Vector box details the vulnerability in more detail, such as the vulnerable parameter. The Show Request Responses option within the Attacked Vector Details displays any HTTP requests or responses required to understand the vulnerability in more detail. This level of detail is very helpful to developers in QA when assisting with remediation of an issue. The Add Note option gives you the ability to add notes against any vulnerability. This is useful if you need to tag some additional information or context to a discovered issue. Other users who have access to the vulnerability will have the ability to see the annotations. The Vulnerability Data screen also has an export function. Here you can export vulnerability data by drag and dropping the required columns and selecting either XML, CSV, XLSX, or JSON.